Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back to my wood stove maintenance and fire prevention series. This is part 2, and in this episode I will be focusing on maintaining a wood-burning cook stove like this gem behind me. They require a bit more maintenance than your average wood burner, but they are well worth the effort, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a must-have for the self-sufficient lifestyle. In part 1, I showed how I maintain the stove in my living room. All I expect out of that stove is it throws heat safely and efficiently. But with my wood-burning oven, my expectations run a bit further, because not only do I want it to heat my home, I want it to be able to maintain an even oven temperature so that when I throw something in there to bake, it's going to come out just the way that I want it to. Now, what makes a cook stove more complex is they are designed to send the smoke around the oven before it exits out the flue. If they weren't designed like that, you'd have all the heat on one side of the oven. And if you didn't sit there continually rotating what you were trying to cook, it would end up looking like a charcoal briquette on one side in short order. The stove that I showed you in part 1 doesn't have that. The smoke exits right out the top, and it can be slowed down with a damper installed in the pipe.
It's important to maintain an unobstructed airway beneath the oven. If ash builds up along the oven wall, your stove will run inefficiently. With the antique models like this Crawford, the smoke was sent across the top of the oven, then down and under before it could exit out the chimney. This caused the stoves to choke up with soot, and they required frequent cleaning. A shop vac works great to remove the soot and creosote, but I never use it for removing ash from the firebox. I only employ this method when the stove is stone cold. It's not a fun job, and misery loves company, even if it is from a border collie.
See the size of the firebox in here? Pretty amazing, isn't it? And the oven is just as big. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? To have a cook stove with a firebox that's that large. I can put some really big rounds in there, and not only does that allow me to maintain a fire all night long, but I can keep a steady oven temperature throughout the day. And that, my friends, is just plain awesome. And the oven there is running right at 350 degrees. Now, anytime that I have shown something in my videos that I really like, I'll get flooded with questions because folks want to know where they can buy one. If you followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I don't do a bunch of promotions. I don't even promote my own products in my videos. Quite often you'll see me cooking with my Uncle Jim's seasonings, and not once have you ever seen me flash my website across the screen, say, hey, buy my products, you can buy my products here. If someone asks, I'll certainly give them the link to my website. I don't push any products on my viewers. It's not why I make videos. But because I get so many people asking about the stove, I'll bring you behind the scenes a little bit. My friend Woody over in Montana was involved with the designing of the original Kitchen Queen stove, so he knows them better than anyone. He's also the largest Kitchen Queen dealer in America. There are other dealers that sell Kitchen Queens, and some of them try to make you believe that they are the manufacturer. They'll have the Kitchen Queen logo. They might put up photos or videos of manufacturing, but they're not the manufacturer. If you're going to buy a stove like this, it's an investment. However, it's an investment that will pay for itself, because you can heat your home, cook your food, heat your water, all with the same fire. It really doesn't take too many winters for the stove to pay for itself. And if the grid ever went down, or in an off-grid situation, you know, cabin in the woods kind of thing, homestead, it's an essential part of that lifestyle. But again, it's an investment. So if you want to buy a stove, you want to buy it from a reputable dealer. So when I was talking to Woody just recently, I'm lining up the purchase of my next stove. I'll be buying a smaller model for my New Hampshire cabin. So I told Woody that I was going to be making a video on stove maintenance and fire prevention, and I asked him if he'd want to cut my viewers a discount on a stove, and he was certainly happy to oblige. So this isn't really a promotional video. I'm just passing on a little bit of knowledge and offering a nice little discount to my viewers that want to buy a stove. So if you want to check him out, he's got a huge selection of stoves, very, very knowledgeable. These folks over at woodstoves.net will set you up with the right stove you need and cut you a little discount. Just tell them the boss of the swamp sent you. They'll set you up good, give you a discount as well. That's where my next stove is coming from. I just wanted to pass on that information, nothing more than that. So now I'm going to move on to discuss some of the pros and cons from the different chimneys that I've had experiences with, and talk a little bit more about fire prevention before I close this video. In part one, you saw me dismantle my stovepipe and inspect my chimney. I had to dismantle that pipe because the pipe goes up and turns 90 degrees. I have no way of inspecting it without taking it apart. This, however, runs straight up right through the roof. All I have to do is remove the chimney cap, peer down through. If it needs cleaning, I just get up there with a brush, clean out the pipe, everything gets knocked down into the firebox, clean it out, and I'm back in business. From my personal experience, I think a metalbestos chimney is the way to go. That stove in the living room, I burn nothing but really dry wood in, but yet I still have issues with creosote and soot backing up in that chimney. All of my experiences with metalbestos chimneys, even when I'm burning a lot of green wood and birch and stuff like that, I have little to no issues of creosote backing up. If I see creosote in the chimney, a quick zip with the chimney brush and everything comes clean. And with the masonry chimney, it gets stuck on, and a lot of times it won't come off until the stove has been cold for several months, and then I go in the fall and it starts to flake away and I can remove it with the chimney brush. But with the metalbestos chimney, I have no issues whatsoever. Now a masonry chimney, even if it's not made out of stone like this one, can be a major undertaking. But a metalbestos chimney, anyone with just a little carpentry experience can usually have the job completed in less than half a day. I put the metalbestos chimney in the cabin workshop, and from start to finish, I had the project completed within just a few hours. I've been using metalbestos chimneys since I was 21. I've had them in several different places. I have never, ever had an issue with them. I highly recommend the metalbestos chimney. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about fire prevention before I wrap this up. If you're installing a metalbestos chimney, you just want to make sure that it's secured well and you leave the proper clearance that is suggested by the manufacturer. If it's running up through an attic, you want to make sure that you don't have a bunch of stuff stacked up that could fall against the pipe when the stove is in use. Inside your house, you want to make sure that you don't have any combustibles too close to the wood stove. Like I mentioned in part one, most house fires that occurred resulting from a wood stove took place because there was combustibles too close to the stove, or something was knocked against the stove while the people were sleeping or they were away. This often happens when you have pets in the house. Now here in the living room, as you can see, there are no combustibles near the stove. I have a pet in the house, as you can see here, Ding Dong, working hard. He's been on vacation lately. He's got his chickamunk going. Huh, Frankie? Because he likes to lay on this love seat and it's near the stove, I don't keep a bunch of loose pillows on here. He might get in here rooting around, and a pillow might fall down against the stove when the stove is going. So any potential hazards I want to avoid. I like to take advantage of the nice dry heat that the wood stove can provide. So quite often I will have a rack or two of laundry drying in the house. I make sure that those racks are not within falling distance of my wood stove. If I have the laundry drying in the living room here, and somebody comes up the driveway and gets the dog riled up, the dog might be jumping up and down at the window and knock the rack of laundry against the wood stove, and then I have a house fire on my hands. So in most cases, all it is required to have safe operation of a wood stove in your home is to make sure your chimney is nice and clean. You take a minute to identify the other potential hazards and you remove them. So I hope you found this information to be beneficial. If you like what you see, please click the subscribe button and share my channel with others. All the best to you. God bless.